to me, it's the adversity that I went through was necessary for me to get to where I'm at.
Hi, and welcome to the Loan Officer Team Training Podcast. My name is Irene Dufort, and I'm your host. And I am super happy to have with me today a good friend, Mike Hajjar, out of Farmington Hills, Michigan. We're so glad to have you here, Mike.
Thank you so much, Irene. It's my pleasure. I'm grateful that you have me on.
So I am super excited to introduce you to our audience because you are very motivated. You have one thing I've always noticed about you, Mike, is that you're super motivated to succeed, but you have a heart of gold. And
Thank
that is a great combination. It's not easy to find that combination as often as we want to find it. But what I love about you is you help other people on the journey. I've seen it firsthand, how you help other people on the journey, but you also succeed and you're always looking for ways to grow. And that's what I love about this podcast is that we can help people grow. We can help them with ideas that will help them grow, not just as loan officers or loan originators or branch managers or mortgage people, but people outside also of the mortgage industry. So I'm so glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about your business, how it works. Are you a branch manager? Just give us an idea of how you do things.
Yeah, so I am a producing branch manager. I've been with American Financial Network. December will actually be 5 years. So we have multiple teams here in Michigan, Southeast Michigan, Metro Detroit area, and then in Florida. And I think a lot of our business model, our success, everything kind of backs into the mortgage planning model, if you will, right? Where it's the before, the during, and then being there well after the closing. I heard that phrase so many times early in my career, and then I'm like, but I don't, because I was only taught to be transactional. I'm like, well, then how do you be there after the closing? And really just kind of diving into that world is probably what even saved me from leaving the mortgage industry. Because to your point, I mean, even when I met you, I don't know, almost maybe 7, 8 years ago, that's one of the first things that I noticed. The mortgage business can obviously have some big personalities in there. And that room, I was probably, I was young I'm 37 now. I was in my 20s, pivoting from consumer direct to the purchase world. So all these Scotsman people in there. Well, one of them is now my business partner, believe it or not. I met him at the event, the
Oh,
Freedom
that's
event.
awesome.
And he was Scotsman back then, right? But it was a lot of big personalities in that room. I kind of felt a little bit of like imposter syndrome, but you made me feel so welcome there. And like you said, it's when we're really doing things from our heart and being genuine, it bleeds into not only, our clients and our team, but really everybody that we're dealing with on a daily basis. So I said that very long answer to say that it's really pushed me to the mortgage planning side. For me, if it's just going to be transactional, I really lost and couldn't find purpose in that. It was just money at that point. Where now we're doing things that truly are changing people's lives. That's where we get the warm and fuzzies and really that thing that gets us out of bed in the morning. Money's not enough to get us out. It's going out there and being there for people.
I love that. I love that about you. It's so much better to be changing people's lives while you're able to make money. It's kind of like I always liken it to I see the actors get up, and at the Academy Awards and they thank their teacher or they thank, somebody who believed in them years ago or their mom or their dad or whatever. And I think these people, I always think about this when they get their award, it's not so much about the award, it's what they're saying and the impact that people have had in their lives, especially when they say, hey, don't give up. For those of you that are struggling as actors right now, actresses, don't give up, keep going. And somebody did that for them. And that's change. It's life changing. I know we throw that term around a lot, life changing, but it really is life changing. And I know that's what motivates you and it motivates me is to change people's lives. They're actually changing their life. You're just helping them, right? We are on the journey to help them. And so
Correct.
when you do these HECM loans, and you can explain what those are in a little bit, but when you do this type of work with them, you're helping them so much. And it's like you said, it's not just a transaction, it's not just a paycheck. You're continuing to wow them, right, with your experience with working with you. I love that. And what what I want to tell people is that you run the number one purchase branch at American Financial Network out of 300 branches for the last 3 years in a row. That is a major accomplishment. So kudos to you, Mike. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's kudos definitely to the team, my business partners. The we were running the exact same business model, we weren't the same branch. Then we were collaborating so much that we had to sit down and say, does it just make more sense for us to join forces rather than be in the same division, running the same exact business model, trying to do P&L to P&L transfers because we're, working these loans together. And it, like any partnership, not to say that, of course there's challenges, but when the opportunities outweigh the challenges, you found a good thing. And it was, again, it was Rob Zebart who was part of the Freedom Club. And when I
Uh-huh.
got to AFN, I was like, we got put on a call, and I'm like, Rob, you're here. And then, he's been my buddy for years and a mentor of mine. So us joining forces, he was already doing his thing, and then I was able to kind of plug in, and him and he's been my direct mentor on those HECMs. We do a lot of financial advisor workshops, him and he's
Oh, great.
speaking in front of like 1,500 advisors in January. I'll be there backing him up because I can somewhat speak that language. And I think that was getting back to the after part of things, right? There's so much after when you're dealing with a HECM,
Mhm.
because if we're putting in plans in place with the financial advisor and whatever it may be to increase this client's portfolio, it has to be assessed multiple times a year because they can do things like extract the full line of credit or go against the plan that we have in place, which has ramifications. So it forces me to be focused on the after even more than I ever thought I would be, and I love it.
Oh, that's great. For those people who are listening that may not be in the mortgage business, tell us what a HECM is and how it helps people.
Yeah, so the HECM is the home equity conversion mortgage, the air quotes, if you will, the big bad reverse mortgage. And it is big and bad for I'd say the 95% of lenders that don't understand it. And then we cannot blame the financial advisor community for not understanding it because it's a mortgage product. But the way that it's used, and now with the safeguards that FHA's come in, put in place, and a responsible originator behind that deal. One of the things, all the things that it does, and when I break it down to an advisor, it almost this question, they almost have to say yes from a fiduciary responsibility. But the question I ask them is, if there was a proven resource that could increase cash flow, reduce risk and expenses in retirement, add new reinvestable dollars back into the portfolio. Is this something that your client should at least take a look at? And I don't say what it is, but if they say no, then I won't bash anybody there, but you know where I'm coming from on
Yes.
in layman's terms. What it does is it creates a portfolio, or a buffer asset rather, to protect the client's portfolio. So especially for, usually that the reverse was used in destitute situations. People want to get rid of that mortgage payment monthly, and then it's this negative amortization loan. Well, the one thing that I think, and advisors tell me that they have a challenge grasping this in the beginning, is that they have a tough time seeing something be a liability, but an asset at the same time. Because let's just say right now, I think 40 something percent of Americans have their home owned free and clear.
Mhm.
right? Maybe because Dave Ramsey told them to do so. And I don't have anything against Dave Ramsey for building, getting out of credit card debt and some things like that. But I think when it comes to today's wealth building, it's very different than the rules of money that stem from the Great Depression that unfortunately him and some people are still using. But
Mhm.
the number one way that it's been used for us when we're working, especially with advisors and clients with portfolios, is that we end up coming in and making a voluntary mortgage payment because everybody's like, oh, there's no payment, and that's where the negative amortization is. Well, we come in and we will make voluntary payments, still keep the home free and clear, which is what we call the smartest way of owning your home free and clear, and
Mhm.
allowing that line of credit to compound monthly tax free. So what happens, and this has been proven, it's not a matter of like Mike Hajjar's opinion or anything like that. It's a proven tool with a 12-page white paper from the Journal of Financial Planning that proved that taking a HECM earlier in retirement, it increased cash flow survival by 8x because in a market down year, let's say the stock market gets rattled,
Mhm.
well, we would pull the money off of the tax-free line of credit that year in a market, allowing the portfolio to recover. In a market up year, we'll pull from the market portfolio, allow the tax-free line of credit to recover. And that coordinated withdrawal strategy, not only does the client win, of course, the advisor wins because they've got additional assets under management for a longer period of time.
Yes. Well, that really helps people, doesn't it?
It does. It's wild how misunderstood it is, but
Mhm.
it is a very complex product. It takes studying and knowing it in and out because the advisors are going to drill with questions, not because they just automatically want to be skeptical. I mean, that's part of it. The other part of it is they genuinely don't understand. So this is something where I know a lot of, especially in the circles you and I run in, we're not going to be intimidated by, a financial advisor because they went to college for 4 years.
Right.
And no shot to my advisors. I love the advisors that we work with. But these are very intelligent people that I'm looking at them and I'm like, this isn't registering fully, is it? Because when it does finally click, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I can go to my entire database that's approaching 62 and really get a plan in place. So one of the testimonials we got recently, long story short, client was with one of the bigger names, household name advisor firms. I won't say their name, but I quickly pulled up a calculator from Vanguard, just like retirement calculator, and she was withdrawing at 14%. So the general rule of thumb is that 4% rule. Obviously, she had an 86% chance of running out of money in retirement. So not only were we able to get her dream home with the HECM, she was in tears and I asked her, I said, why are you crying, Deb? She said, Mike, had I not went to go buy this home, I would have never known that I was running out of money in retirement. She said, number two, I know that I'm not running out of money in retirement, but number three, more importantly, I know why. And that one I'll never forget. So
That's
yeah,
that's education that you're giving. Not to the financial, the financial advisors are so smart. They've been to college, they know all what they know, but they don't know what mortgage people know in every detail. So it's your job to go out and educate them and educate their clients as well. So I think that's a beautiful thing. We all have something that we know, right? Something special we're specialists at. And it's our obligation to go out and tell people what's available to them that they may not even be aware of. It's just really important to do. So I'm glad that you're doing that and that Rob's doing that together. 1,500 advisors, that's a lot. That's a
yeah.
big stage.
He's got the breakout session. He's part of a mentorship group. I go down once a year, but Rob's a master mentor in there. It's called Circle of Wealth.
Uh-huh.
So he's the only non-advisor in there. And then including me and Fritz and some of our
Uh-huh.
leadership team that comes with us every year. Rob makes their heads spin. It's funny to see. He's wildly intelligent, but he's a student of it, right? The first time he got me there, He's like, Mike, you got to get down to Orlando for this event. And I'm like, Rob, we've got this going on. Then it's in January, and I'm trying to do, P&L reviews and all this stuff, getting us ready for the next year.
Uh-huh.
He's like, Mike, they talk about mortgages 90% of the time. Sure, as I get down there, they're all talking about mortgages. And what they were saying is that these advisors, that the number one place that people lose money unknowingly and unnecessarily is number one, how they acquire real estate, cash payments or cash purchases, massive down payments, because Dave Ramsey said so. Or the other number one thing is how they pay for their mortgage, 15-year, making additional payments. So, and then that's even more than the second place that they lose the most money unknowingly and unnecessarily is taxes. So if they're in a perfect world, a client would go to a financial advisor and say, hey, I want to buy a house. This is the portfolio that I have. Then the advisor would refer them to a lender, and then a lender would send them to a realtor. We all know that's not how it works. They go to the realtor, and the realtor is going to tell them to go to a lender. And a financial advisor is probably only being brought in maybe 30% of the time, or they have one that the lender can work alongside. So I think that the responsibility is on the real estate and mortgage community to understand this, because we have seniors sitting in their homes, some of them not being able to go visit their grandchildren, some of them that are about to go in nursing homes because they don't know that we can liquidate this tax-free line of credit and use it to fund in-home care for them. All these different things that they don't know that they're living in the solution. And that's what really motivates Rob and I to get up and move around the country and teach these housing wealth workshops. A lot of times we teach together, but to cover ground. Like he was in Denver right now while I was down in Texas. And then we had 2 events here in Michigan back to back. So me and him are just kind of out there making it rain, but more than anything, empowering people to understand this.
That is so great. More people need to do that. Education is really important. You mentioned when we first met how you were in this big room and you had some imposter syndrome, which we all go through. I had imposter syndrome when I met Carl White. I was a mortgage marketing animal member first, and I met him and felt like, does he really want to start the Freedom Club with me? Because we started it together, and I was just so excited because, like you said, I had imposter syndrome a little bit too, and I had to just keep reminding myself, no, Irene, he wouldn't do it with you if he didn't think you were worthy of it or that you could do it, you were capable, So as you were in that room and you were thinking about that, all that stuff was going through your mind, look where you are now. So I want you to remember, go back to where you were then and look where you are now. One thing that you worked through, that you told yourself, you had to keep changing your self-talk, right? Yeah. So you had to change your self-talk, re-say it, reword it in your mind, and probably several times, knowing the way I know people and I know myself as well. And so you had to push through. You had to keep saying, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep doing it. And you were there, and you met Rob. And now look how one thing, I just love to see people's stages, how they start here, they work through whatever is holding them back, including all of us. We're all that way. I don't care who it is in the world. The most successful, the most rich, the most powerful people had to work through the same type of thoughts at some point in their life. And so you did that, you worked through, and now look where you are. And I'm just so proud of you. I'm so excited that you pushed through that and worked through it. And I'm sure you're still working through things. We all are.
Every day.
Yeah. Are you holding off on training your loan partners, your loan assistants, your team members and support staff on how to wow your clients? Are they getting that kind of training from you? You probably plan on training them if you get a few extra hours, but when does that happen realistically? And meanwhile, your team is doing the best they can with the information that they have. But this kind of training really doesn't exist anywhere else. When you do the training, that means you're not as responsive as you want to be with your clients, and you're not hitting your closing and income goals as a loan officer. So how much is it costing you to not have a team that's properly trained how to wow clients and referral partners so that they only want to work with you because of the great experience that they're getting. We teach them how to use efficient step-by-step processes and systems that work, how to follow up so nothing falls through the cracks and loans close on time and even early, how to build wonderful relationships with clients, how to wow people so they go, man, that was an amazing experience. The members of his or her team are amazing. They're so on it. How to use scripts and dialogues for winning clients, setting expectations, and communicating with clients so that you can prevent problems down the road. How to handle difficult clients, how to make clients feel appreciated and valued, and how to handle and overcome objections. It might be time to ask for some help. That's why we're here. Loan Team Training has our next live WOW training coming up. We train your team for you so you can focus on closing loans. Check it out at loanteamtraining.com for our next class and see how many 5-star reviews we have from past WOW training participants and their loan officers who sent them at loanteamtrainingreviews.com. Remember, it's an interactive virtual training with live trainers, and we train any of your support staff that is communicating with clients and referral partners. Our sessions are 9 to 11:30 Pacific time. Check us out and sign your loan partner or team member up at loanteamtraining.com. What personal growth, maybe a habit or something that you had that really has helped you to get from point A to point M that you're at now? You're not at Z yet. We don't get to Z till we're all done, right? But you've really come a long way, Mike. Just from hearing your story, I know you've come a long way. I knew it. You always had it in you from the time I met you.
Thank you.
You may not have felt that yet, but I knew you had it in you from the time I met you. That's why I'm so excited to share your story.
Sure.
What is something that you've done that maybe on a daily basis, a habit that you've had, something that's helped you?
So you see this all these books behind me, right? And so if I were to pin it down to one thing, I think it would be being, really becoming a student. When I was in the hospital, and so my podcast is coming out. Like, obviously my team reached out to you again. It's so funny that they didn't know we know each other, or maybe they did, I don't know, but I didn't tell them, so they just did a good job regardless. But I think the biggest thing was, to me, it's the adversity that I went through was necessary for me to get to where I'm at. Renee and all of our industry friends always talk about how adversity is our biggest currency, right? So my podcast is called the Financial Rebound. It's about ups and downs, and like you said, I'm not done with those. It's going to keep going, and there's going to be great times, there's going to be challenging times. But I think what happened, and the real turning point in my career, I was laying on the hospital bed. I had gotten rushed there. I was dealing with some stomach pain. Thankfully, it was something that was dealt with. It was like diverticulitis, but it got seriously inflamed. Ended up having surgery, but I couldn't go back to work for like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading this. I had this iPad or something in front of me, and I'm like, if I watch one more movie, I'm gonna lose my mind, right? Like, they already took my laptop from me because they're like, you can't work, you didn't stress yourself out. So I'm like, so what am I gonna do? I can't just sit here all day. And I didn't own any books. So the first book that I went and bought, and I had somebody bring me, was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that really, why I think that book should be called like How to See Things from Other People's Point of View. It really started forcing me to take accountability when I was in the hospital bed, and there was a lot of challenges going on with my business. Imagine as an originator being out of your business for 3 weeks, not having access to email, getting my phone taken away from the doctors, right? It obviously created a lot of business problems for me. So I read that book, and it forced me to really start taking major accountability. I was also then at the same time on a system side and scaling. So simultaneously then doing some Freedom Club stuff, and Kai McBride was coaching me, and he looked and he's like, Mike, we got to stop whatever we're talking about. And, Kai's going to shoot straight.
I love
He's
Kai.
like,
He's
yeah, I
awesome.
love him too. He's like, Mike, your financial literacy is negative right now. So the same way I grabbed that book, I started to grab books and entrench myself in the world of finance and understanding how money works. Once I learned how to get myself out of multiple seven figures of debt and this just horrible mindset that I was in, that was my turning point in my career and kind of where I felt like, all right, this is a story that I can share with the world. Again, that adversity was necessary.
Yes. And without it, you wouldn't be where you are now.
Correct.
At the time, it feels like it's never going to end, right? At the time, it's very painful and you're wondering and thinking, but then it creates something that we can't see at the moment. That's how life is, right? We have all these experiences, good and bad, but when we look at the hard ones, they are what makes us. They really are. And it reinforces us, it strengthens us, it makes us stronger so that we can weather. I always like to look back when I'm having good times, when things are going really well. I always anchor into those feelings that I'm having to remember later on when things get hard. It could be personal, it could be business, it could be whatever, but it's still a hard experience, regardless of what it's about. And you say to yourself, you know what? I've been there before. I got through it. I'm stronger for it and I can do it again. Yep. And my
100%.
one of my favorite affirmations is I did it before, I can do it again, and this time I know more. This time I have the
Love
experience
that.
that will get me through that. And I've had to say that to myself a lot of times.
You and
but
I both.
but I love that because even though it was painful, it was a not a good experience to go through, it got you reading. And that was your turning point. And that
Yeah.
you mentioned my very favorite all-time book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I was so impacted by that book the first time I read it and reread it several times that I had each one of my kids when they were teenagers read that book.
Love it.
And they've read it. I don't know about the older ones, but they've read it a couple of times that I know of. But I know for sure that I motivated my youngest one. I think, I don't know if you know Kenny, but he's a trainer with
Yeah,
us.
he works with you, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, he used to work. Mike used to work with us, our older son,
Okay,
when I was
okay.
originating, but I'm no longer originating and he's doing
Yeah.
his own thing. And then Kenny works for a loan officer as a loan partner and he does the
Nice.
converting for them and he trains with us. But he's so much younger than my other kids. He's 11 years younger than our oldest and 8 years younger than our middle daughter.
Okay.
That we knew things by the time he was a teenager that I wish I had known when my older kids were teenagers. And one of them was just feeding him with good self-talk all the time and
Yeah.
good books. And he was always motivated by success and money. Like he wanted money to spend things and things like that. And so we paid him instead of giving him I guess you could say it was allowance, but we motivated him with his allowance by him reading a
I love
book. And we gave him some suggestions and then he read them. So he read What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Chad Helmstetter. He read all of the classics
it.
and he
Yeah.
read them all and he's reread them and he continues to do that. And so do my other kids. They read really good and they're always trying to develop themselves, which I think is really great. I can't take credit for the older two doing that because I wish I had done it more when they were that age.
Yeah.
When they were a teenager, I was building my mortgage business and I wasn't home as much as I wanted to be. My husband was a teacher, and so he was home more often and my dad lived with us. So they had grandpa there, but I have regrets, about being gone a lot. When you're building something, it's a startup.
Takes everything.
Yes, and I had no training, so I didn't know what I was doing and, we were financially having a hard time and it was just a really tough time. But by the time Kenny was a teenager, they were both out of the home and I was able to focus in on him and I'm just really grateful for good books that have been written. And I'm glad that you did that. You took that time and did that because we could sit there and watch Netflix forever. And yeah, we get good things out of movies. I like to get good situations that I think about from movies. but there's nothing like a good book.
It really is. And it's like I'm one of those that when I get a book, like most, I think every one of these I have another copy, because by the time I'm done highlighting notes, like the book is not destroyed, but it's nobody else is going to be able to read it besides me. So, but no, it's so underrated. And I was such a I was a good English student, like in high school and things like that, but math was really where I excelled the most. I think reading, I don't know, maybe I was just too wild. I couldn't sit down long enough. I don't
Uh-huh.
know, but it really, like, I heard Nan Martell. He was on, I think, Neil's podcast recently,
Yes, he
and
was.
I think one of the clips, and I loved it. He said, the next time you're going to do business with someone or something like that, ask them the last book that they read in like the last 30 days or something. And if they can't give you a book, like, don't do business with them. I was like, as I get older, I can relate to that. I know why, right? Like, once you start reading, all these ideas come, and all this motivation and inspiration. And, we did two events for 50 agents each the last 2 days. I redid my presentation probably 4 times on the plane, because as I was reading, I was like, oh no, I'm going to change this part here. And it was a book that had nothing to do with my presentation. But that's the power, as you know.
For sure. Now, I'm sure you've set up systems in your branch, in your, all over where you have all of your loan officers. I'm sure you have processes and systems. How have you done that? Like, I'm always interested in systems and processes. That's what we train about. We have systems and processes and checklists, how important those are, and things like that. So, how do you do that in your mortgage business? Do you have someone that's in charge of that? Is it led by a manager, or do your team members put their processes together?
So it's led by management. So it's myself, Rob, Fritz Reichart, and then Eric Remy runs the Florida sales team. And then we've got Jenny, who runs our operation, so she's more involved in that. But we actually brought in EOS Worldwide because we've got a dynamic group of, on the leadership team. It's,
Ah,
it just, if you know me and Rob, then, like, imagine 3 more people, 4 more people like that. So we've got some strong personalities, but also imagine, like, by the time we all try to get together and do this, but when we know it's for EOS, everybody's there at the same time. And so we've done that. And we've, I've even told you, like, some of the stuff, I've had some challenges. We decided to centralize all of processing in Florida, but me and Rob are sitting down, and Fritz, and looking to now build out more of a operations team here. And
mhm.
then, because we've got, like, our own funders, our own closers, own funders, dedicated underwriters, things like that. But I think we're missing a lot of opportunity with just as we grow, right? Some of the natural growing pains. And that's what I was reaching out to you and saying, I've got somebody in the Michigan office that I really want to put through your loan training, the loan assistant boot camp. She's green, but she's she's really been more of my executive assistant.
Uh-huh.
But sorry, I veered off. But to answer your question, yes, processes are put in place by management, but we are constantly improving them any way that we can.
That's awesome. And we always have to be refining, right? We're
Yeah,
always refining. And I love the term that I coined quite a while ago. One day, Tammy Schneider and I were sitting and talking. And so we
love
kind of
Tammy.
came up with it together. I just love Tammy. Came up with it together, SWET. So same way every time. I was going, we have to do things the same way every time. And we were like talking it through. And she said, yeah, the same way every time. What can we put? We were kind of together going, what can we put that an acronym for that? It's SWET. Same way every time. And you actually do sweat when you do things the same way every time. And when you go to the gym, it's the same way every time. It's repetition, repetition. and doing things the same way every time. So that's what we call it, SWET.
I
And
love
when people leave our training, they all know what SWET means. And it kind of anchors your mind to know that there is a process. You can't just do it one way this time and another way this time. And of course, clients are different and situations are different, but the process is the same. And
correct.
so that's really important. So, yeah, so I'm super excited that you took your time with us today. I really appreciate it.
No, this was great. I'm grateful for you having me on. I'm just it's always a pleasure connecting with you, whether it's on Zoom in person. I mean, I think you nailed everything. You'll hopefully we can get you. Let me get a little bit more dialed in on my podcasting, and then hopefully we can get you because but I do want and maybe this isn't the platform for it, but obviously I do want to hear more about the loan assistant training and
The Loan Assistant Mortgage Training Bootcamp, it's an online course. And I think we talked about this, but I'll mention it. It's an online course for people who are either newer to the business or they were never formally trained and they're working as a loan partner or as a loan assistant, LOA, but they don't really know how to do mortgages. So this is very specific about mortgages and it teaches them from terms to taking a full application the right way, making sure it looks right, credit, income, assets, property. I mean, we go through everything, how to look for guidelines, just how to do everything up through the processor to give it to the
sure,
processor. And then we also have a section in there that teaches them how to be a support to their loan officer. Like a little piece of the WOW training is also in that training. And you know what, Mike? We never do a course or a class without a section on mindset because
love
mindset is the foundation of everything else. And what we've noticed in the last 5.5 years of training support staff for loan officers is that they don't really get that a lot. They don't get a lot of outside training. They don't get personal development training. This is something that they really need. And this is the one thing that helps them the most because it changes how they look at things. They can go from a negative attitude about work to a positive attitude about work, even if it's just one little piece of it.
yeah.
And so that part's really important. So we cover that in the boot camp. And then we have two other courses as well. One is the client conversion training where loan partners learn how to convert clients like the loan officer during the consultation. So people that are going to do the consultations for the loan officer or a newer loan officer maybe that needs to learn how to convert better, that's a class that we have. That's a live class. And then the third class is our WOW training. That's our signature course. And that is a live class that teaches the staff of the loan officers how to be a better support, how to have a great mindset, be a team player, how to have utilized systems and processes, checklists, how to get documentation in a way that they'll get it instead of people putting them off. We just have connection moments, how to build a relationship with the client during the process. And if I had to call it anything, I would call it a communications course because
Okay.
it teaches them how to talk to people. But what we don't cover is mortgages. Like we don't cover FHA or VA or any of that during that course. So what we found, Mike, is that originally we called it a loan partner WOW training, and it still is. But what has happened is people said, oh, can I send my business development rep? Can I send my processor? Can I send my ops manager? Can I send all these other people? We said, as long as they're client facing, they will get benefit from the course, as long as
Okay.
they're client facing. If they're not, like if a processor or an underwriter, they don't talk to clients, I wouldn't send them to the course because they don't really need it.
Yeah, if it's for communication, that makes sense. Now, is the support one, does that cover any mortgage topics, FHA, VA, or no?
The boot camp is all about mortgages.
Got it. Okay. And that's where you would recommend somebody new starts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all about mortgages. The other two are not all about mortgages. They're about communication and that. But the boot camp is right now, it's the only online course. They can take it right away. And when we're done here, I'll send, but it's loanteamtraining.com is where you'll find the boot camp. Loanteamtraining.com. And so just appreciate you being here today. Thanks for asking about the classes. That this wasn't scripted, anybody, so you know.
No, we're trying to put, if I can move this camera, I'd show you. She's right here. So no, thank you so much, Irene, for having me on. I'm grateful. It's awesome to continue to to be in contact with you, to be connected with you, and hopefully now even working with you on a bigger scale. You're just always just a huge beacon of light to this industry.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mike. Thank
You're
you for
so
being here
welcome.
today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again at the next event, whenever that is. I'm sure we'll run
Yes,
into each other again. Just enjoy everything. Enjoy your moments, Mike. Enjoy your moments because you've created them. You've brought them to
thank you.
pass by what you're doing. And I'm so proud of you. So keep
Thank
it
you.
up. Thank you for being with us today. I really appreciate you taking time out to listen to this podcast, and I hope it brought value to you. If you could do me a favor and subscribe to it, that would really help us out. And if you feel so inclined to leave a review, we'd really appreciate it. So have an enjoyable day, and we'll see you next time.